So, what is it that makes a simple click so irresistible? Today, we're going to crack open a kid's game to uncover some seriously powerful design secrets. You know, the kind of secrets that are actually all around us every single day.
It really all starts with this one line from our source material. Click, ding, bake, cookies forever, holiday addiction unlocked. Now, get this. That phrase, holiday addiction, it came from a coding tutorial for 6 to 12-year-olds. Yeah, that's what really caught my attention, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack here.
So, let's dive right into our first section, the infinite cookie factory. We're going to figure out what makes a simple, repetitive click so incredibly compelling.
Okay, so our source is this really cheerful tutorial from a YouTube channel called sparkquarkkids. It's designed to teach kids the basics of coding by building a festive little game, a Christmas cookie clicker. I mean, on the surface, it's just a super simple, totally innocent holiday project. The main thing you do is, well, it's right there in the name. You just click a cookie. But here is where it gets really, really interesting. The tutorial itself calls the game an infinite treat factory and kind of jokes about addiction. And you realize this isn't an accident. It's actually part of the fun. So that brings up the big question, right? How does this simple little game get its hooks into us? What is actually going on under the hood? To really get the why, we first have to understand the how. So let's take a look at the anatomy of the game. We're going to break it down into 5 key ingredients in this, let's call it, addictive recipe.
Okay, so it all starts with a very simple manual action. One click gets you one cookie. Easy enough. But pretty soon, you can start to automate by buying upgrades like Grandma's that bake for you. Then comes the real hook, a random reward. This golden cookie that pops up out of nowhere and gives you a massive bonus. And to keep you chasing that next high, there's a scaling system where every upgrade gets more expensive. And what's the ultimate goal? It's called prestige. You reset your entire game just to get a permanent boost for your next playthrough. It's a brilliant, escalating cycle.
So, we have the ingredients. But why does this recipe work so darn well? Well, that's where we get into the psychology of more and the real science behind this whole structure.
You know, the most fascinating part is that the kids' tutorial pretty much tells us the secret, right there in its own explanation of the code. It highlights the key to what makes it so addictive: loops and variables. This isn't some hidden trick. It's the celebrated core of the entire game's design.
And this brings us to the key psychological engine that's making this whole thing run. It's something designers call the compulsion loop. To put it simply, it's a cycle where you do something, you get a reward for it, and that reward immediately makes you want to do the action again, usually because you're promised an even better reward next time.
And as you can probably guess, this is a textbook example of how the cookie game works. You start with an action. Click the cookie. That gives you a reward, the cookie itself. You then spend that reward to upgrade your cookie-making power, which really only encourages one thing: to click even more for bigger and better rewards. It is a perfect, self-perpetuating loop. Hey, remember that golden cookie from the tutorial? The one that just dumps 1,000 cookies on you out of nowhere? Well, this is a classic example of what psychologists call a variable reward schedule. Because you never know when that huge bonus is coming, it keeps your brain totally hooked and always anticipating. And that is so much more powerful, so much more compelling than a reward you can see coming. Okay, so let's be real. This is about way more than just a kid's game. It's time to zoom out from the cookie jar and see how this fundamental recipe is absolutely, positively everywhere in our digital lives. I mean, think about it. The endless scroll on your social media feed, always promising a new, interesting post just a flick away. The loot boxes in video games, that's just a digital golden cookie. And you know those streaks in your fitness or language app that you feel like you just cannot break? They're all running on this exact same logic. Now, this isn't always a bad thing, right? That streak counter in a language app can be a really powerful motivator. The key is just recognizing the underlying mechanism. So at the end of the day, whether the goal is to get you to learn a new language, hit your fitness goals, or just keep you scrolling through a feed, the mechanism is exactly the same. Keep you engaged by creating a really satisfying loop of action and reward. All right, let's bring this all home. What's the real final takeaway from pulling apart this simple cookie game? And more importantly, what does it mean for your digital life? See, just by understanding the recipe, that simple cycle of action, reward, and upgrade, you can start to see these loops everywhere. And once you see them, you're no longer just a passive participant. You become a much more mindful consumer of your own time and your own attention, and you're able to make conscious choices about where you spend it.
So,
We've deconstructed the recipe from a really simple kids game, and we've seen how it applies all across the digital world. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know all the ingredients, what's the cookie clicker in your life?